So thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this time with me. It's a real honor, a real pleasure. Dr. Juan Villarreal is a very good friend. I admire his work with the community, his responsibility with the community. That's not common. So when he asked me to give a talk, I was more than pleased, because I see he's somebody that's always helping the community, and I like to share in that, in helping the community. Okay, so the story, the short story is that I was an obese child. I had obesity since I was very small, but I was always a little fat guy. Through all of my life, I battled with obesity. Children in school all had names for me. The names had to be, there were names to make fun of me. It can be very cruel, not because they're evil, but because of ignorance. But the thing is that I live with the stigma of my obesity all of my life. And as I became an adult and I married, I became even more obese. But through all of my life, all I remember was being ridiculed because of my obesity, and being rejected by girls. They didn't want to dance with me because I was the little bald with legs. I, through all of my life, especially since I became a teenager, every single day, vegetarian. And every single time I did it, I lost the weight. And a problem of having it worked. Everything that I tried worked. I lost a lot of weight being a vegetarian. I lost a lot of weight doing the Atkins diet. I lost a lot of weight counting calories. I lost a lot of weight in many different ways. Now, the problem wasn't that. The problem was that nothing lasted. I would do this sacrifice, stop eating this or stop eating that, or eat less, or eat 6 times a day. I did every single concept of thing that you can imagine. And they all worked. Some worked more, some worked less, but I always lost weight. The problem wasn't that. It was that I would always rebound. So it's like I lost 15 pounds with a lot of effort, controlling myself, and then eventually I regained, and then I regained 20 or 25. Next time around, I go into the next fad, and now I lost 25. And now I regained 30. And through all of my life, it was always I lose it and I gain more. I lose it and I gain more. I became desperate because I realized that nothing that I was doing would ever help me. So I got very sad with the subject, very angry with the subject of my obesity, and I figured, well, I can handle everything in my life, my work, my family, my neighbors, anything but my body. Now, after going through all of the emotional curve of that, all of the ups and downs of it, I had a doctor, a good friend, a neighbor, who was also my doctor. Now, this doctor saw me at one point and said, "Frank, you're now pre-diabetic, and you're about to go diabetic. Your glucose is too high, and you're like 1 point under what we call diabetes. So if you don't do something, your 4 children may not have a father in some time, okay? Because I'll need to put some insulin or some medication, and I know I have a lot of diabetic patients, and they're amputated, they lose their sight, they need dialysis because they damage their kidneys. So get your stuff together, okay? Now, He was telling me that, and I was like really in shock because now it was really threatening my family. Okay, that kind of like gave me an additional push to actually try and find. Now, the thing is that this doctor, this friend of mine, is a neighbor, is a doctor. Sometimes we had barbecue at his house, whatever, but he's always my doctor. He was both obese and diabetic. See, he was obese and diabetic. At one point, he had, so I figured, well, he certainly does not know how to handle this, otherwise he would have handled it himself. At one point, he had sent me to a nutritionist. And the nutritionist put me on calories and avoiding fat and fat-free foods and eating 6 times a day and all this stuff. And I lost some weight. I gained it back. But I also recall that this nutritionist was severely overweight. And so I figured, well, neither my doctor nor my nutritionist know how to solve this, because otherwise they would have applied it for themselves. So anyway, out of this experience, this gruesome experience of life, it was emotionally painful, and out of the fact that every time that I met somebody in the street, well, somehow or other they always mention how overweight I was, somehow or other, okay? And that really killed my day, okay? And sometimes they would mention it at a point when I had already lost on 10 or 15 pounds. Because I would still look fat, so they might have not seen me in some time. So anyway, at first I grew angry with the subject, then I grew disillusioned, and then I made a decision. When I was told that I was about to become a diabetic, I said, okay, now I really need to do something, okay? But I already knew that the people who were trying to help didn't know, because otherwise they would have it solved themselves. Now, everybody's good at something. Each one of you is good at something, at least something. Some are good at cooking, some are good at mathematics, some are good at finances, some are good at carpentry, whatever. Everybody's good at something. I am good at one thing. I'm a good student. I'm a professional student. I am the type of student that will read something and never let go unless I totally understand it. So now that I am also passionate about science. I'm very scientific. When little children my age would play with comics or whatever, I was enjoying Scientific American or something like that. Okay? See, I have always been fascinated by science. As a young child, they would give me chemistry sets. Sometimes I could have the thing explode, and I got really interested. But I wasn't really interested in most things that other children are interested. I always tinkered with things, did experiments, burned things, and did all kinds of things. But always interested in science, in physics, in science, in that type of thing. So I had those two things. I was very interested in science, and I'm a good student. So I decided to go on this search for my own solution to my own problem. Okay? The way I did this is I live in Puerto Rico, but I live in the central city, San Juan. And San Juan has the University of Puerto Rico. The university, which is the biggest university in the whole Caribbean, has a marvelous library. And it's a public library. And I went there and I started to search for answers. I had noted that I have 2 friends who are still my friends that had grown up with me, and they are very, very, very skinny. I call them those damn skinny guys. Okay, yeah, because they would sit down and eat a 16-piece pizza, yeah, between the 2 of them, with a Coke, one of those liter Cokes, okay, and then finish off with some Nestle chocolates, okay? And you could always see their ribs, okay? So I noticed there was something about them that they could eat anything they wanted and never gain weight. Now, I seem to gain weight by just looking at food, okay? Okay? So I'm a person who's always, I realize that one learns by comparing, okay? And I compare my body to theirs, okay? So there's something wrong here because I don't eat half as much as they do, and yet they never gain weight, and I gain weight all the time. So I figured there has to be something wrong with my body. So when I went into the library, I started searching among medical books. There were no books on metabolism. This is some 25 years ago. The subject of metabolism has become more well known in the last maybe 12 years or something like that. But some 25 years ago, certainly there were no books on metabolism, none. There were books on calories, books on fat, and books on exercise, and that's it, okay? I'm also I'm an avid reader. I read compulsively, sometimes too much. Sometimes should take care of my wife, and I don't. I keep reading because I'm just very interested in finding the truth of something. I'm very interested in truths, finding workable truths. So anyway, I started reading through the medical literature at the medical books side on the library. I became very friends with a librarian, okay? And she was overweight. So, and I told her what I wanted to handle, my own obesity. And she says, well, I'm going to help you because when you find it, you tell me. Okay, good. So, yeah. So anyway, I was kind of lucky, just lucky, that I came into this subject of the metabolism, okay? It was just a lucky strike. I came into this subject of the metabolism. I started reading about the metabolism, and one of the first things that I discovered, I'm going to draw it here for you. I went one medical book, and it's talking about some scientist that had been nominated for a Nobel Prize. Now, to get nominated to a Nobel Prize, you really have to do something spectacular, okay? Even if you don't win, just to get nominated, that's you have, like some of the best in the planet, okay? And this scientist, his name is, I think it was Peter George. The last name is George, okay? This is like the first thing that I found. This Peter George had been nominated for a Nobel Prize. And he had been nominated for some discovery that he had done, okay? This is the discovery. He explains that the cells are like that. Inside the cells, there's a little part called a mitochondria. This is like a little oven. It's something that actually oxidizes. It burns food. And your body is alive, and it's also warm. Okay? And it's warm because this mitochondria, it's all over your cells, and it's producing energy and producing heat. So when somebody eats carbohydrates, for example, bread or salad or whatever, carbohydrate, it turns into glucose and it goes into the mitochondria, okay? If they eat something like protein, like cheese or egg or meat, it becomes amino acids and it goes into the mitochondria. I'm reading this. And if somebody eats something that has to do with fat, like lipids, it turns into fatty acids and it goes here. And then when you breathe and when you take water, it contains a lot of oxygen, so then this oxygen goes here, and when these four things are present, this thing produces, this mitochondria, this little furnace, an oven, creates combustion, okay? And this is like the fuels, together with the oxygen, it creates energy. Now this energy, and I'm reading this, I'm really fascinated, these mitochondria produce a substance called ATP. Now, ATP is adenosine triphosphate. And this is, in fact, the body's energy. It's a chemical energy that the body produces. And every single cell in your body, all cells, brain, nervous, muscles, all of them have mitochondria, and all of them produce ATP. Otherwise, you will not be alive. So, in effect, I was interested in this thing, but he didn't win a nomination because of that. He's explaining this. His nomination to a Nobel Prize, he didn't win, but he was nominated, was because of the following thing. He discovered, he measured scientifically the energy contained in an ATP molecule. So when you get glucose, which is the main source of fuel for the body, like blood sugar, every one molecule of glucose, actually he discovered that made 32 ATP. And each ATP, he measured the energy, and he found that it measured 600 units of energy. Now, the energy of an ATP is very small energy. But of course, you add many ATP molecules, and you got a lot of energy. Now we're talking about the metabolism. Basically, I was discovering the metabolism, okay? And this energy here, it's called joules. Now, if you take 4,200 joules, you make 1 calorie. So his discovery was each ATP molecule contains 600 joules of energy. But then the main discovery, the one he got nominated for, was that when ATP combined with water, which is H2O, a chemical reaction occurs that these 600 units, when the ATP combines with water, this becomes here 6,240 joules. Now, I was contemplating that for a little while and trying to understand. I says, oh my God, that means that if I take water, if I drink enough water, I can increase the energy more than 10x. Because from 600 to 6,240 is more than 10x. And I sat there for about 20 minutes trying to reason with this and say, well, how come this man found that water increases cellular energy by more than 10x, and people are not told that they have to drink water to have energy, to have metabolism? And I was in shock. But then it took me a while, and then I finally said, well, it's probably because there's no money in water, which is probably why they're not recommending it. They're recommending Pepsi or Coke or 7-Up or fruit juice or whatever, but not water. You never see it advertised. So anyway, that was the first discovery I made on the subject of the metabolism. But since that day on, I got fascinated. And I need to really go deeper into this and find out. So what I did with this, I started drinking water. Now, I used to drink diet refreshment, diet sodas, okay? But I started really drinking water. And I almost drowned myself in water when I discovered it. I was desperate. But you know, something happened. I started drinking water, and I started to lose weight. I actually started, and my clothing started to fit better. Not only that, my hunger started to disappear. And I noticed a huge change in me. Even my skin, everything, started to become supple and hydrated. But I felt energy. My urine changed. It was almost transparent now, okay? I had problems going to the bathroom, that disappeared. I had headaches, they disappeared. I had acid stomach, the acid stomach went away just by drinking water. Now, some years later, I found another doctor by the name Dr. Bad Mangelit, which I mentioned in my book, The Power of Your Metabolism. He wrote a fascinating book called Your Body Many Cries for Water. And there he goes into that. He actually completed my knowledge, but I had found this first. Now, this man was nominated for a Nobel Prize in 1963. And I was checking this out back in 1988, and nobody had done zoot with it, okay? But that's what got me started, the science of it and the results that I started. So anyway, after that, I started researching the metabolism. And I started researching the metabolism in every single place that I could find something about the metabolism, including all kinds of weird books from the Hindu this or the Japanese that or the whatever. I mean, I didn't stop at anything. I was looking under every stone trying to find a solution to my problem. So anyway, that's how I got started, and that's why I'm here today. Anyway, then I lost a lot of weight with this thing and other things that I discovered. I went one after the, so I was putting like a puzzle together. I found water, I found the thyroid problems, I found a yeast called Candida, I found how constipation won't let you lose weight, I found the importance of sleeping well, I found these other things. But they all came one by one. Anyway, but I lost 54 pounds that I have in excess. I was heavily medicated with high blood pressure, triglycerides, cholesterol. I had fatty liver. I had apnea. I couldn't sleep at night. And I was depressed. My feet were always swollen. And my hands were swollen. So I was giving diuretic medications so to get the water off. But when I started finding these things, I lost the weight and all the medications went away. To this day, I'm 65 years old. I don't take any medication, nothing. Actually, when I go to see the doctor and he checks my labs, I'm always doing better than him. Always doing better than him, okay? Okay. So he calls me and he asks me, what should I do, whatever. Because I don't know much about medicine, but the metabolism, I know. It's kind of like a specialty. So anyway, that's my story and that's how I got here. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you a brief, kind of like a little summary of some key aspects. There's no way to replace reading the book, knowing about it, and understanding the whole subject. The subject is fascinating. At least I find this fascinating. I'm still researching, but I'm going to share with you some key points. Okay, here. So in 2006, after I had lost all this weight, people who knew me from being overweight all lifelong started to ask, what did you do? And I started offering some free lectures, basically to help. I didn't mean to go into this practice. My purpose was basically to share my win with it. And what happened was incredible because people started to come. I would give a talk on Thursday. I used to work in a business where they sold jewelry and fashion jewelry. And we had something like 2,000 sales ladies. Now, sales women are always interested in weight loss, even if they're skinny. Has nothing to do, okay? And I found that out the hard way. As I started to give these talks, these women would bring their comadre, their sister, their mother-in-law, their whatever, okay? And the group kept going bigger, and one day, one of those Thursdays, I found there like 100 and some people. The people didn't fit, okay? And some of them were like really putting pressure on me. Like, you gotta help me, I've tried everything, my husband is criticizing, he's looking at other women, but I used to blah, blah, blah. I mean, the thing was getting really emotional, okay? And some of them would start crying, and they had done liposuction and then gained the weight back, and I mean, it was a painful, emotional thing, because people who don't know metabolism will actually accuse somebody of overeating. Now, the ones that overeat are those damn skinny guys. No? They really overeat, okay? It's just that their body burns them, and mine retains everything, okay? So anyway, I made a decision back in 1998. in August of 1998, I made a crazy decision. I said, I'm going to open up a center, and I'm going to help these people lose weight by recovering their metabolism. It was a crazy idea. My best friend told me, you're totally wacko, crazy, okay? You're not a doctor. You're not a nutritionist. You don't have a license except for driving. What are you doing opening a center for weight loss? I says, well, you know, after dealing with all these women and seeing all this suffering, I've realized that they're not interested in my certificate. They want results. They want to see the results in their clothing, and they want to see their husbands looking at them and not elsewhere. That's what they want, okay? And I can produce that, okay? So anyway, I did, it was a crazy move, okay? But I opened up and I decided to call it Natural Slim. I live in Puerto Rico. We speak Spanish there, but we also speak English because there's two languages. Puerto Rico is part of the United States, it's a territory. But I kind of figure, well, Latinos somehow always think that if something has kind of like an American name, it must be better. So I didn't. It's kind of like imported or something. So I did a little bit of thinking. I said, okay, I'm going to call it Natural Slim. So I opened up a little center. It was maybe 1/4 of this space here, small place. But the thing is that since I started August 18th of 1998. It's now 17 years, okay? Since the day one that I started, people started losing weight. And they would bring other friends and family like that, and the place started to grow. And it grew so much that these days we have 4 large branches in Puerto Rico. We handle over 2,000 people a week. We got dozens and dozens of doctors that refer people to us because they lower their triglycerides, cholesterol, insulin, whatever. Everything gets better when you lose the weight, excess weight, and you recover the metabolism. Then we, in 2006, I wrote a book called The Power of Your Metabolism. I first wrote it in Spanish, then it was translated into English. And to my surprise, because I had never written a book, the book became a huge bestseller, and I was in shock, okay? I had calls coming from everywhere. They wanted me to speak, and I said, what did I get into? Because all I do is basically I take something very complicated scientifically, and I explain it like in rice and beans, you know, really easy, okay? Because I never assume the person in front of me has a medical degree or know these words. So I actually eat the words, I digest them, and then turn them into a regular layman's language, okay? So anyway, this book became a huge bestseller, and they started to ask for it in other countries, and suddenly now we're like in 12 countries selling the Poder del Metabolismo, The Power of Your Metabolism. Then it was translated into English, and then into French, and then into Dutch. And now we have people who want to translate it into Russian and other for South Africa, and it's all over the place. So it's since then, since August of 1998, I've been running all over the country, traveling everywhere, never had a chance to look back. Sometimes I ask myself, how did I get here? Sometimes I'm giving conferences to doctors, and I find 300 doctors there listening to me. Of course, most of them are overweight. So they're listening. So anyway, that's my story. I wanted you to know how I got here. Okay. So let me then share this information with you. Okay. Good. Let's see the local statistics. The statistics locally. Here we go. They say of the 50 states, Texas is the 9th most obese state, with 30.4 of the population being obese. This is your local stuff, okay? Now the source is the Center for Disease Control 2011, okay? So you're among, you're gifted. You're among the 10th most obese. Okay. You're on the top rank, okay? Good. Okay. They say everything in Texas is big, including exactly. Okay, good. Okay. Now, another statistic. Out of 19,492 cities in the U.S., McAllen, Texas, is the second most obese city at 38.3. Ah, you got people from McAllen. Okay, you see? See, you knew you could be the winner somehow. Okay, good. Now the source is the Gallup and Health Weight surveys of 2012-13 and the U.S. Census Bureau of 2007, which tells us how many cities total are in the total United States. Okay, so the second largest, the second most obese city in the whole of the United States and its territories it's McAllen, and we're just so close. Okay, just so close. Okay, good. So it gets. I knew you were going to ask. The first, it's someplace in West Virginia. Okay, yeah, and they're only a hair on top of you. 38.4. So you can win. If you keep trying, you might win. You might win. Okay.
Next year, sir, we're gonna win.
Okay. Hopefully not. Okay. Now, obesity has reached epidemic proportions. The government doesn't know what to do with it. The experts don't know what to do with it, and what's being projected is just a total social disaster. Unfortunately, it affects our children too. About 25% of our children are already overweight, and what that means is not that they're healthy like we used to think in the old days. A child that was a little bit heavy on the heavy side meant it was healthy. What that means is that they're actually destined to diabetes and high blood pressure, at least. Okay, so we have a responsibility here of knowing about this as fathers, as mothers, as grandparents. We need to know about this to help our children, who in some ways, in very different ways, they could be victims of our ignorance. And they don't have the judgment to actually help themselves. So we need to know about this. Okay, now, the main cause of this epidemic, this obesity epidemic, is having a slow metabolism. Why do I say this? Well, there's a part of the population, and I'm going to ask you about. I want those of you that know one of these skinny persons that can eat anything they want. Now look around the room. Everybody knows one of these very skinny persons that can eat anything they want. In Spanish I call them the flacos condenados. Yeah, exactamente. Yeah. Okay. So they can eat anything they want, and they're always okay. Now, they have a gifted metabolism, but the great majority of the population have what we call a slow metabolism. Now, it's a type of metabolism where you actually gain weight very easily, almost like looking at food, okay? Just looking at food will make you overweight. It's a type of body that actually holds on to fat and accumulates fat. It doesn't burn anything. It's always saving, okay? And this is what the subject of the metabolism. My quest is actually to restore the body's metabolism. Now, the reasons for the slow metabolism are, one is dehydration, lack of water, like I was explaining. Another is excessive stress. Stress will make you fat, including the stress of not sleeping good enough. If you have a bad quality of sleep, you will start to gain weight. If you chose the wrong couple, and he's always fighting and creating quarrels, you'll grow fat, because stress will make you fat. There's a Candida albicans yeast. It's a yeast. It's a huge infection for several reasons that I will discuss later. There's thyroid problems. More than 50% of the population have thyroid problems. More than 50%. Half of them know it and has been diagnosed, and the other half have what's called subclinical hypothyroidism, meaning they have all the symptoms but not the lab work. So of course they are accused of inventing their sicknesses, and they're not. Many of them are, sadly, many of them are medicated for depression, because hypothyroidism produces depression, among other things. Abuse of refined carbohydrates. This is a big one. Bread, flour, sugar, starches, high fructose corn syrup, all of this stuff is killing us. Ignorance about the body's metabolism, this is like the overall problem. People don't have a clue about their metabolism. Even the doctors that I've heard talking about metabolism, they don't have a clue. They talk about it in very general terms, but they have no practical solution. So another cause for slow metabolism is incorrect diet for your metabolism type. One thing that was discovered in the field of metabolism, and you'll see some of that today, is that we're all not the same. We're different. Some of us have different genetic factors, so we cannot all be the same. There's no such thing as a balanced diet. It cannot exist because we're all different. So the diet that's good for you might be the wrong diet for me. And this is one of the things that we handle with the metabolism. Okay, now, being overweight or obese is known to cause the things that obesity and overweight cause. One is high blood pressure. It causes high cholesterol, high triglycerides. The word triglyceride, what it means, in case you didn't know, triglycerides mean fats. All fats and all oils are triglycerides, including the motor oil in your car. They're all triglycerides, okay? Now, when the doctor says you have high triglycerides, what he's actually saying in rice and beans is your blood has a lot of fat that is floating on it. That's what it's saying, okay? So high triglycerides, it's a killer, much more than cholesterol. Heartburn is part of the problem with the obesity and overweight. Acid reflux, people who have obesity and overweight problems have a lot of acid reflux, and they have to take antacids and all this stuff. It sells a lot of medication. Digestive problems, people who have overweight or obesity problems have digestive problems. Some things don't fit well, the stomach expands, and they have digestive problems. Also, gastric acid pain. It also brings heart disease. People who are overweight have 4 times more heart attacks than people who are not overweight. That's the statistic. Depression, 35% more depression, more emotional depression, more prone to be medicated with antidepressants, because obesity is a hormonal problem, and this hormonal problem depresses a person because the body is run through hormones. It's like a woman is going through menopause, and she's having all kinds of hormonal problems with her estrogen and progesterone and that, and she gets depressed. Same thing happens to an obese person. It's a big producer of cancer. Obese people have 5 times more cancer than persons who are not obese. Okay? Actually, most women who get breast cancer, the breast cancer has a lot to do with excessive fat. It happens in skinny women, but it happens mostly in women who are overweight. And that the statistics, the clinical studies on it are very clear. Prediabetes and diabetes, very much tied. In fact, if you can control obesity and overweight, you are controlling both diabetes and prediabetes, both. And this is what I see in my practice every day. People get in, they say, I am prediabetic, and I have fatty liver. And I say, well, when you lose the weight, you will not be prediabetic, and you will not have a fatty liver, because that's what restoring the metabolism does. You get rid of all of that, and suddenly you don't have it. With diabetics is where I see my biggest wins, my biggest satisfaction in doing this is with diabetics. Nobody gets better than a diabetic with this kind of a system. It restores the body. Basically, I see hundreds and hundreds of diabetics that come in, they're injecting insulin, sometimes a lot, like 120 units, 160 units per day. It's very expensive because the The health insurance plan will pay up to so much. I've had members in our system, we call them members, not customers, that were spending as much as $800 a month in insulin. And this is like people who were living off Social Security. And they were paying more for the insulin than for their mortgage. And really making it impossible to make ends meet. And the joy of seeing somebody like that, a couple of months later, come and say, you know what? My doctor took away all the insulin. I mean, there's nothing that compares to that joy. It's like it keeps your fire in trying to help people to understand about this. Alzheimer and dementia, it's been found. For example, it is known, and it's in the clinical studies, that people who have diabetes, for example, have 9 times more Alzheimer. In fact, Alzheimer is called, now it's called diabetes type 3. If you check on the internet, you see diabetes type 3, it's Alzheimer. It's been found that Alzheimer is caused, and this is the recent discoveries, by high glucose and high insulin levels in the brain. Okay? Of course, there's a hell of a lot of medications they want to sell, so they won't tell you any of that stuff. Among people who are just overweight, that are not diabetic, the incidence is 7 times. So the incidence being overweight or obese is 7 times more Alzheimer. The incidence being diabetic is 9 times more. So those of you that have lived as long as I have, I'm 65 years old. I remember 30 years ago, we hardly knew anybody with Alzheimer. Now today, there's hardly a family that doesn't have somebody with Alzheimer or dementia. And it's a product of all this overweightness and high blood glucose levels and all of the other stuff that they throw at us in the food supply. Anyway, and male impotence. For example, among diabetics, over 50% of all, this is the statistic, over 50% of all diabetic men are impotent, over 50%. Now, nobody talks about the women, but the only reason why they don't talk about the women is because there's no medication to help a woman that is now uninterested in sex. But what has been found, for example, is that women who grow too obese or diabetic get a type of neuropathy. Neuropathy is a death of the nerve. It's a nerve that's called the vagus nerve that actually gets into the clitoris and lets the women enjoy the sex act. So all of these women are totally cold. They're not interested because they can feel nothing. Now, you never hear about that, although it's in the literature, because there's not a medication to sell you. So you will see all about Viagra and Cialis and all of that, and they show you people happily ever after with butterflies and things and in TV. But about the poor woman, nobody talks about her. I mean, she's just cold, you know. She just cold. She got lost interest. Okay, good. So anyway, this is overweight and obesity is known to cause all these things, and it's actually documented. Now, okay. Now the word metabolism, so that we clear the word, it's important for us to clear the word, to know the origin of the word, so that we all know what we're talking about. The word metabolism is a word that was originated from a word in Greek as the word meta. Now, meta is a word that is in the Greek dictionaries. And meta actually means change. That's one of the meanings it has. When you hear the word metamorphosis, it's a change of form. And the word meta also means movement. So when you hear of somebody that has a cancer that is in its terminal stages, you will hear a cancer that's in metastasis. That means the cancer is actually moving. It's actually spreading through the body. Okay? It's the final stage of cancer. So when we talk about metabolism, which is a word that has an origin in the Greek meta, we're talking about change and movement. And so I want to now share with you what our definition, my definition of the word metabolism, the one I've been using the last 17 years, which is the one in the book. And this is the definition. What is the metabolism? The metabolism is this. This is how we see it. Metabolism is all the movements, changes, and actions which your body does to convert food and nutrients. Nutrients are vitamins, minerals, cofactors, whatever the food contains. Contain those food and nutrients into energy in order to survive. Now, you are now listening to me as because you're alive. And you are alive like I am because your heart is beating. Your heart is a muscle. It's a muscle that must maintain a certain rate of contraction and relaxation every minute. So about every second your heart pumps. And it can't stop, because if it stops doing it, you lose your life. Now, it pumps because it's a muscle and it has energy. And that energy comes from the metabolism. And it's being constructed in every single cell of your body. Okay? When that stops producing enough energy, then you call it sickness, you call it diabetes, you call it obesity, and you call it all of that. Okay? It's a problem in energy creation. That's really what it is. Okay, so that's what the metabolism is. Now, reality. Diets do not work. It's a reality. People do a diet, they lose the weight, they gain it back. They lose the weight, they gain it back. Unfortunately, they always gain back more than what they lost. It's called the yo-yo effect. I did all of that most of my life. People that come to us have been experiencing this to the utmost extent. Some of them have spent thousands and thousands of dollars and liposuctions, and some of them did bariatric surgery. I have people in Puerto Rico and also in Mexico that have already done bariatric surgery, lost 120 pounds, and now they have 100 pounds back, okay? Because the stomach actually is a membrane and it expands, so it will grow back. And you didn't handle the correct problem, see? If it were true that, bariatric surgery suggests that the problem is that the person is eating too much. But that is not the problem. The problem is with the metabolism. When you handle the wrong cause, of course you get it back because you didn't handle the root cause of the problem. Diets don't really work unless you improve your metabolism. Now, if you improve your metabolism, the diet will work. But we're going to go in a little while into the difference between diet and metabolism. These are two different things. Now, another reality is that you can't fix something you do not understand. And this applies to everything in life. I mean, you can't fix something you do not understand. So it starts with understanding. If you understand what's going on, then you can assume responsibility over it, and then you can look for a solution to it. But you have to start by understanding. Okay, now, the diet is like the gasoline to your car. It's the fuel of your body. The diet, when you think of diets and food, think of fuel. It's like gasoline. Now, the metabolism is different. The metabolism is what happens inside of your body to turn that fuel into energy. So the metabolism is what the body does to turn that fuel into energy creation. These are two different subjects. Imagine for a moment that you had a problem with your car's motor. Something with the spark plug, something with the electrical system, something is wrong with the motor. You will not be able to fix the motor if you just try to change the type of fuel you're using. This is the reason why diets do not work, because they're trying to fix the whole problem through the diet. And it is not a gasoline, it is not a fuel problem, it's a metabolic problem. It's a whole different thing. There's people, you all know some of them, who are very skinny, can eat anything they like and burn it like that. But the majority of us have a slow metabolism, and the problem is inside. The problem is in the motor, it's not in the fuel tank. So this is basically the concept of differentiating one thing from the other. Now, let's see some factors that reduce the metabolism. See, nobody was really born with a slow metabolism. See, nobody was born fat, nobody was born diabetic, nobody was born sick. So although I wasn't there present when you were born, I can guarantee that your father and mother gave you a body that was working perfectly, and it didn't have any defects at that point. Now, so there must have been something that you didn't know, that didn't help you not knowing, and that you did or must have done and didn't do whatever that ended up being a slow metabolism. I know a lot of people who come to us at the Natural Slim Centers or the Relax Slim Center in Florida who bring their old photo when they were very skinny. See, I was so skinny. But then I had this baby, see? And the baby, see how beautiful she is? Now look at me, okay? So something happened, okay? Something happened. And this is what the metabolism is about finding that something. Okay, now, factors. Excessive consumption of refined carbohydrates. That is one huge factor. I'm talking about candies, sugar, ice cream, pastries, pizza, chocolates. But we can continue by going into pasta and donuts and rice and other pastries and Coca-Cola and French fries. And of course, we can always continue, but because you already know what the rest is, but there's an aggravating factor. There's something that makes all of this worse than anything. The aggravating factor is that refined carbohydrates are addictive. They are addictive, okay? Now, when your body asks for something, does it ever ask for vegetables? For salad? What does it ask for? Chocolate. What does it ask for? Ice cream. What does it ask for? Bread. What does it ask for? It always asks for refined carbohydrates. It will never ask for vegetables or salads. It only wants refined carbohydrates. Now, the thing is that carbohydrates are addictive. They are as addictive to our bodies as an illegal drug like cocaine or heroin can be to an addict. And people hide like criminals at night to eat their sweets. And believe me, I've never been to your house. So in a coincidence, it's just pure coincidence, okay? But people hide like criminals, and they hide the evidence. And they go into the CVS or the Walgreens or the whatever, and they can't resist themselves because they see this piece of chocolate, and their mouth waters. It waters. It becomes bubbly. You get all this saliva just swelling, okay? And when the body wants something, it will bring the picture with it. And you see the ice cream, you see the Baskin and Robbins, you see the cake, and it asks for a specific thing, and you will not budge. You want just that, and it's non-negotiable, okay? Okay? Now, that's exactly what happens to one of those junkies that has to go and get his hit, get his drugs. Now, there was a very interesting study made by the University of California back in 2012. The study was done with rats, but many of the studies that they do for humans, they do it with rats because it would not be ethical to expose humans to that type of experiment. But what they found was, and it's a very interesting study, I have it in my diabetes book, I'm using it because it really enlightened me. They discovered that refined carbohydrate, in other words, bread, rice, tortillas, sugar, all those refined carbohydrates, they found them to be 8 times more addictive than cocaine. 8 times. So actually, when you have an addiction to carbohydrates and you try to cut your addiction, you will get a withdrawal symptom. You will feel unhappy. You will feel like something is missing from your life. You will feel like, well, and some people have this reasoning like, well, my sex life sucks, so why not have some chocolate, okay? Now, okay. Now, one very interesting datum about the body. See, the body is a fascinating organism. I'm still studying and learning, and I learn from you guys. Whenever I speak with you guys, I learn a lot, okay? Sometimes I learn more with you than with any clinical study or book. See, the human body is a fascinating subject, okay? It's an organism very easy to understand, very easy to understand. It only wants two things. It wants energy. It's one of them. So when the body is hungry, it will really call your attention. It wants energy, okay? It wants energy. When your energy is low, and you have a slow metabolism, it will ask for fast energy, like sugar, chocolate. It's a type of false energy, or it will ask for coffee. So it wants energy, and the other thing the body wants, it wants sensation. There's only two things that to keep our body happy: energy and sensation. And the sensation is that pleasure sensation. It either wants it through the mouth or through this other area here. You know what? Okay. Okay. It's very easy, very easy organism to understand. It wants energy and sensation. Okay. And generally, if it's missing energy, the sensation. Okay. So when the body is asking for something, you have to figure out it's the body, it's not me. The truth of the matter is that you are all spiritual beings. I am a spiritual being. None of us is our body. We have a body, we have a mind, but we're neither the body nor the mind. We are spiritual beings. Okay? That's regardless of any beliefs. It has nothing to do with that. You know intrinsically you are a spiritual being, and you have a body. But the body is not you. The body is another organism. The body does not learn. The body does not study. The body has no opinions. Even the body doesn't even have emotions. You create emotions. So it's a whole different ballgame. Going back to the metabolism, when the body is addicted to carbohydrates, you have to help the body detox. One of the first things that we do in our system, the natural slim system, we never try to teach somebody unless we detox them. Because dealing with an addict is impossible. See, the addict will lie through his teeth to get his drug. So the first thing we do with anybody that comes into our service, and one of the things that I'm recommending on the book, The Power of Your Metabolism, is you need to detox the body, and I tell you how. You do a 48-hour diet, or specify there, lots of water, and in 48 hours you break the habit. And then you cut this. You don't have to cut that, okay? Just that, okay. I don't want you to suffer too much, okay? Okay. She liked that, okay. So it's a real aggravating factor. It's an addiction, okay? So you're trying to deal with an addiction, but the news is that the addiction is of the body. You as a spiritual being cannot be addicted. It's an addiction of your body, and that's your possession, and you should be able to control it, not the other way around. When the body is controlling you, you're in trouble. You have to control it. Now, more factors that reduce the metabolism. Here we go. One is dehydration. This is a key one, okay? The first one that I discovered. It's lack of water. Now, the water molecule, the body is supposed to be 65% water. So if you compare the body to anything out that is not the body, the closest thing you will find that's more similar to a body is a bottle of water. Because the body is supposed to be 65% water. And it actually is 65% water. When a baby is born, a newborn baby, it's something like 78% water. See, the baby has spent 9 months floating in a lake of water called the placenta. And if you touch a baby's skin, you will see it's supple, it's humid, it's deliciously soft, okay? Now, when you grow obese, it's scaly, it's dry, and well, it's just scaly and dry. It's well, yeah. And it actually, when your body is devoid of water, you actually get older at an accelerated rate. It's an accelerated process. Now, water is H2O. Everybody knows that. But you see, H2O, it's a molecule that actually looks like Mickey Mouse, because you have this large oxygen atom with two very small atoms of hydrogen. Now, the thing to know about this is that the oxygen atom is 8 times bigger than the two hydrogen atoms put together. The atomic mass, the mass of it, this is 8 times bigger. So basically, when you're drinking water, what is it that you're really drinking? You're drinking oxygen. Oxygen is the basis of life, and it is the basis for burning things. You cannot burn something unless you have oxygen. It's like if you're frying something and the pan and the fat in the pan gets into fire, you can take one of those covers, put it on top, and extinguish the fire. Okay? The same thing happens with the body. When the body does not have enough oxygen, it can't burn, so then it stores. So one of the reasons why the body will keep storing fat, it cannot burn it. So if it cannot burn it, let's keep it for the future. So drinking water is crucial. Now, to restore the body's metabolism, you need lots of water. Now, I'm not talking about water with Crystal Light, or water with tea, or water with coffee, or water with any other. I'm talking about pure H2O, water. That doesn't mean that you're not going to drink the other things. You can. But it means you need to give the body the water that it needs in order to restore the metabolism, to bring it back to an operational mode. Okay, now, let's talk about how much water. How much water does my body need? Well, for 17 years now, we've been working with a formula that I actually acquired from Dr. Batmanjelit. This is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever read. He devoted like 50 years of his life to study water, and he would cure people from asthma, from high blood pressure, and lots of other things with pure water. Of course, he was very persecuted by the FDA, very persecuted, okay? Because an attempt like that to lower pharmaceutical sales is not taken very lightly, okay? Especially with something as mundane as water. So the formula is this. You take your weight in pounds and divide it by the number 16, and you get, this is the shortcut. Don't ask me why. It used to be 3 calculations. So I ended up with 1 because it gives the same result. It's a shortcut. You take whatever your weight is, divide it by 16. You know how many glasses of water per day you need. And the example is this. Let's say you take 160 pounds. You weigh 160 pounds, your body. You divide it by 16. Well, you will need 10 water glasses per day. Now, these are 8 ounce. 8 ounce per glass. Now, that's your quota. If you weigh 240 pounds, that would be 15. I have people who weigh 320 pounds and need 20 glasses per day. Now, you take it throughout the day, okay? Throughout the day. But that will make a huge difference. It will take your hunger away, activate your ATP, start burning the fat, will let you go to the bathroom, and you'll have a lot of energy. And many of the diseases that you could be experiencing right now will be gone. They will be gone just by giving the water, the water that the body needs. Okay, now, what is water's intimate relationship with sex? Now, I know you guys are not at all interested in this subject, but in case you know somebody that does, I want you to have the data so that you can help them, okay? I can notice nobody's interested in this. But anyway, what happened is that, see, a man's sexual apparatus, okay, it's a hydraulic instrument. The man gets interested in something, sends a message, and the thing fills up with blood. Now the blood is exactly 94% water and 6% other things. When a man is very dehydrated, the blood becomes very viscous, very thick, and it cannot go through the small capillaries. So he's bound to say hello and bye immediately, and not be very courteous. So very many of the men that are taking Viagra or Cialis, what they need is to take some water. Now, interestingly, for women, it's basically the same, because many women avoid sex because it hurts them. But of course, it hurts them because their body are dehydrated, and they cannot have the fluid necessary to have the friction without having it become painful. So both for men or for women, if you know anybody that wants to improve that area, tell them to drink some water, okay? Enough water, okay, good. Okay, now, what about soft drinks? Okay, now, there's diet soft drinks, non-diet soft drinks. Now, the thing with soft drinks is that, well, they all contain the same. There's one thing that's common to all of them, and that is they all contain phosphoric acid. Now, phosphoric acid, if you look at the nutrition facts, you'll see that they all say phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is what gives you that tingle in the tongue. The reason they put it there was because in the old days, when they make the first sodas, they would put actual sugar crystals, and the phosphoric acid will actually melt that sugar and make it a solute. But then it stayed because they noticed that people love that tingle in the tongue. It gives them the sensation that they're actually they're having a sensation. Remember sensation? It gives them a sensation. Okay. Now, so they all contain phosphoric acid. Now, if you see a truck that's going to the Coca-Cola bottling company or any other soft drink company, you will see that the truck is carrying phosphoric acid. And it will say on the outside, because that's the law, you can't travel with corrosive chemicals through one of the main roads without having it labeled, because there could be an accident. So when you see this tank coming into the bottling company, you will see all around the tank it says danger, corrosive. That's the law. Why? Because phosphoric acid is corrosive. The proof is that if you take a bunch of new bolts or nails and put it in a Coke or a 7-Up or any one of those things, you leave it there for 4 days and you'll see the rust coming out immediately. Now these were new. Now the same thing happens to your body. Now, as per definition, if you look up the word acid in a dictionary, you will see it has something like, at a good dictionary, will have maybe 9 or 10 definitions of the word acid. You will always find one definition that says acid is a substance that destroys oxygen. Now that's not in chemistry. You want to destroy oxygen? Put some acid. Because what is that? What acids do? So you need oxygen in order to burn the excessive fat in your body, to rehabilitate your metabolism. You put a Diet Coke or a diet that contains phosphoric acid, you're actually killing the oxygen, and there will be. I've had people who've lost as much as 40 pounds whose major action was giving up the same diet soda they were drinking in order to lose the weight, which was making them fat. So you have to look at the chemistry and the effect that every single substance has over the body. Now, all sodas will make you fat, whether diet or non-diet, because of the chemistry of it. You want to lose some weight, you want to recover your health, your energy, drink water. It's an acquired taste. It takes people who don't drink water hate water. When they try to drink it, the body has been so accustomed. See, the thing with the body is that you can actually train a body to do anything. You can train your body to do anything, and it will adapt. The body adapts. For example, if you train a body to exercise, the first time you exercise, it hurts all over. The second time, it hurts a little bit less. The third time, maybe it doesn't hurt. By the fourth time, your body is accustomed to exercising like 3-4 times a week. You stop exercising, it will start complaining for the lack of exercise. So the body adapts to anything you teach it, okay? It's like a little dog. If you teach your dog to do its necessities outside, it will do it outside. Otherwise, it will do it in your living room or whatever. So you train your body. When you train your body to drink water, it will want water. But it takes a while. We have discovered, after having helped more than 100,000 people to our weight loss system, that it takes 3 days. It only takes 3 days to accustom my body to ask for the water. So the first time you drink it, you want to vomit it because you're not accustomed to it. You want water with some taste, whatever. No. Water, okay? H2O. There's a reason for that. You will see it on the book. Now, by the third day that you're pushing the water, something happens with a receptor here in the brain. It's a thirst receptor, and it turns on. And suddenly, your body wants water. And now you can't be without a bottle of water in your hand. It's an adaptation thing. You adapt your body to ask for water, and now it doesn't want juice, it doesn't want Coke, it wants water. Because you did it. It takes 3 days to do it. And everybody, I've seen it in over 100,000 people happen. Okay, now, more factors that reduce the metabolism. Problems with the thyroid gland. Now, the thyroid is a gland that's positioned here. It has this shape of like a butterfly with the wings open. And this gland actually controls the metabolism. The fact is that you can lose weight even if your thyroid was removed, because the metabolism is actually happening inside of the cells. But this one actually seems to be like the pedal, the speed pedal on the metabolism. Now, the way the thyroid controls the metabolism is that the thyroid controls how much oxygen will come into the cell. That's how it controls it. So when the thyroid is low, there's less oxygen coming into the cell, there's less combustion, there's less metabolism. So the thyroid controls the metabolism, and it also controls the temperature, because the less oxygen, the less combustion. The less combustion, the less heat. The less heat, the less temperature. So people who have a very slow metabolism, and this is something that is taught in the book, can actually measure the efficiency of the thyroid by using a thermometer. A thermometer will tell you if your thyroid is too slow or not. It will tell it to you better than any lab exam. See, the lab exam is measuring some hormones like TSH, which is made in the brain, T4, T3. Now, all of these hormones are not active in the blood. So when you measure in the blood, it's like being far away from a certain lake, and you're down on the river, and you're trying to measure the water here and finding out through this water in the river what's happening up in the lake. The action of the thyroid hormones is in the cells. It is not in the blood. So very many people go to the doctor, they check their thyroid, and the doctor says, you're okay. You're totally okay. But how come I'm okay if I can't lose weight? If I'm depressed? If every time I come, my hair keeps coming out? If I have constipation? If I have insomnia? If I lost interest in my sexual partner? If my hands are cold, my feet are cold, my body's retaining water, I'm depressed. How come you tell me that the exam says I'm okay? Well, you're okay. See the numbers? You're okay. So it's like the doctors have lost the ability to observe clinically, because if you ask the person, you'll see he has all of the classic manifestations of hypothyroidism. Now that's called subclinical hypothyroidism. It's, if you search the internet for subclinical hypothyroidism, you'll find, I don't know, 300,000 quotes and references. It exists, it's been proven by clinical studies, but nobody does nothing about it, nothing about it. So if you don't have something that shows in the exam, nobody will do anything about it. So one of the things that you learn with the book is you learn to actually improve your thyroid function, including avoiding certain foods that affect the thyroid. One main one that affects the thyroid is soy. And I'm sorry if some of you are eating soy, but soy has goitrogens, and goitrogens will actually affect your thyroid. So you're having soy milk, I pity you. I pity you, because it will affect your, especially the GMO soy that we're using. Everything is non-GMO these days. Okay, now, more factors that reduce the metabolism, and we're just going to go briefly over all of them, or the main ones. Stress will make you fat. Stressful situations, marital problems, financial problems, lack of sleep, even the stress of not drinking enough water, it causes such a stress to, see, when you're causing stress to the body reacts hormonally to stress. Let's say if you had a diabetic person, the problem with a diabetic is that glucose goes up, goes too high, and it starts to kill the cells. But if you take a diabetic who hasn't eaten for 4 or 5 hours, his sugar should not be too high. He hasn't eaten. Yet you can check his sugar, see that it's not too high, and then you give him some real bad news. And you will see that sugar go up. So stress actually raises blood glucose. Some patients come into the doctor, and it's called the white coat phenomena. And their glucose is normal, and it's controlled. But when they see the doctor, they're so afraid of what the doctor is going to say that their glucose goes up. And many doctors know that, and they don't want to measure themselves, the patient. They want the nurse. Doctor does it, they get so stressful that the glucose will come up. So stress will actually make you fat. These two glands here are the adrenal glands. We have 2 kidneys. On top of the kidneys, we have this gland. It's a small gland. It produces adrenaline. They're the adrenal glands. But it also produces a substance, a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is the same thing as cortisone. Cortisone is a hormone, is a medicine that the pharmaceutical companies manufacture in order to calm down an inflammation. But anybody that knows anybody that used cortisone will have noticed that the person gained weight, because cortisone will make you fat. Now, this hormone called cortisol in the body is exactly the same hormone that the pharmaceutical companies call cortisone. It's just that if it's made by pharmaceutical, it's called cortisone. If it's made by the body, it's called cortisol. It's the same thing. It's the same dog with a different color. It's the same thing. Okay? It has the same fattening effect. It's an anti-stress hormone, and it raises your blood sugar, and it will make you fat, especially in the belly. When somebody you get a lot of abdominal fat. Now, okay, more factors that reduce the metabolism. There's a fungus, a yeast, it's called Candida. The first doctor that ever made this known, his name was Dr. William Crook. He wrote a very famous book. He was called a quack when he wrote that book. That was back in the 70s. It was called The Yeast Connection, one of the best books I've ever read. There I got the clue of the yeast. I had a lot of itching in my body, especially after taking a bath. I had a lot of allergies. I had sinus problems. I had headaches. And he was explaining that people who are very infested with yeast, the Candida yeast, have all those symptoms. So I started finding that I was full of yeast. Now that happens when you have a body that is eating too many carbohydrates, too much glucose. It actually forces the yeast to reproduce. because they depend on glucose. So the more sugar you give it, the more bread you give it, the more yeast you will have. To add to that, you take the fact that when you go to the doctor these days, anything happens to your body, the first thing they're going to give you an antibiotic. First thing, okay? Now, the antibiotics are called full spectrum antibiotics. Now, what that means, it kills everything on its path. See, you have inside of your body some pathogenic bacteria, something that's causing the infection. That's fine, okay? But you also have some good bacteria that the creator put there. He's not crazy. He put it there for a reason. It helps you absorb food, absorb nutrients, and it's the natural enemy of yeast. They're called Acidophilus, Bulgaricus, Bifidus, and they belong in your body. And actually, it's been found recently, just the last few months, that when you affect the intestinal flora, it affects your emotions. It's called the second brain. Intestine is called the second brain. So many of the people who have all kinds of autoimmune problems, it's all in the intestinal flora, in the microbiota, it's called. So anyway, this yeast is an epidemic. It's called the silent epidemic. One of the things that we do, we help people recover their metabolism, learn the correct nutrition, hydrate their bodies, and one of the things we do, we have a program to actually clean the yeast out. It has to be done every 6 months because the damn thing comes back. There's no way of killing it completely because it's part of the flora. But the first time that we do it, the person has an immediate relief. They lose the weight fast, the sinus problems are gone, the itching is gone, the allergies are gone. People who have a lot of yeast in their body will also have a lot of allergies. And they'll have a lot of allergies because the intestine is like that, and the yeast actually grow on the walls of the intestine, and they have like these roots. And these roots make little holes on the intestine. It's called leaky gut syndrome. And when the foods come through, some pieces of undigested food come out through those little holes, and the immune system attacks them. And then it creates antibodies. So a lot of people who are full of yeast have a lot of allergies. And they go to allergists, and they do tests, and they find nothing, okay? Or they find everything. Because people who go to the allergist sometimes find they're allergic to everything. But as long as the body is full of yeast, there'll be a lot of holes, a lot of little holes in the intestines, and there'll be a lot of particles living that's in the undigested food, and the body, anything the body does not recognize, it will attack. That's how the body works. So anyway, so you can see all of this subject of the metabolism is tied up to every single sickness, every single upset with the hormonal system. It's all tied up together. Okay, now understanding obesity. Let's understand obesity so that you live with something you can use. Okay, how is fat created in the body? See, I believe, and I've learned that in order to be able to get excessive fat out of the body, you first have to understand how it got there. And believe me, it has nothing to do with eating fat. Actually, we stopped eating fat. We were promoted that we should stop eating fat back in the 80s, and that's when we got fatter. Because we replaced the fat with carbohydrates. All of these foods that are low fat, see, the fat is what gives us the good taste. Taste is in the fat. So when they took the fat away and they declared it a demon, they replaced that, of course, with starches and sugar and the rest of the things, because otherwise we wouldn't buy it. So they took the fat out because we were too fat, and they got to the wrong conclusion, and then they put all of the starches in, and all of the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup, and now we're fatter than ever. Actually, they took the fat out. The campaign started back in 1980. Since 1980 to now, diabetes has tripled. And obesity has skyrocketed to 2.5x. So they actually did a number on us. Now, how is the body fat created? If you understand it, you can actually beat the fat. Okay? But you have to understand where it comes from. Now, here it is. Okay. Now, there's three kinds of foods. There's three classes of food. There's proteins, there's carbohydrates, and there's fats. Proteins include meat, poultry, fish, seafood, eggs, cheese. These are proteins, okay? Now, carbohydrates include bread, pasta, potatoes, starches, rice, flour, sugar, and then vegetables and salads. Now, notice that these first here are very addictive. And we're eating a little bit too much of that. Now, these other two here, we call them natural carbohydrates. Natural because they're not refined. They haven't been baked or broken into minuscule pieces or made into flour or none of that. Now, if people ate a lot from here and those last two there, we won't have any obesity, and we certainly will not have uncontrolled diabetes. But this is what's the carb. And then in the fats, you have the oils and the fats. So there you have all of the types of foods that are available to us. Now, these foods convert into glucose. Glucose is the main fuel of the body. Your brain runs with glucose. Your body builds muscles with glucose, and your body builds, believe it or not, it builds bones with glucose. It uses all the things, but without the glucose, it can't do it. Now, these refined carbohydrates, this little group here, is the one that produces a hell of a lot of glucose. It's like meat, cheese, eggs will produce a little bit of glucose. You can notice it if you're measuring your glucose, as a diabetic does, you can see that it raises just a little bit. But when you hit on this, the glucose really goes up. That's serious pieces. So this group here is the one that produces the most glucose. Now, the body reacts to glucose by producing insulin. Over here, underneath a woman's left breast, we have an organ that's the size of your fist. It's called the pancreas. Now, this organ is very important. It produces many important substances, but probably the most important substance this pancreas produces is insulin. Without insulin, there's no life. You can't be alive without insulin. Now, insulin functions like a shopping cart. Imagine that, okay? It's like a shopping cart. Now, I have to say that I study very technical material, but I like to explain it like in very simple terms. So bear with me, because I'm not going to go into all kinds of technicalities here. I want you to grab the concept. The concept is more important to your knowledge and to usability of that concept than the specific technical thing. Now, you can consider that glucose is like a shopping cart. Now, the insulin hormone picks up glucose. In reality, it's not like that. It actually helps glucose. But let's consider that it picks up glucose. So you ate some of that delicious cake, whatever, that becomes into glucose, and then the insulin picks it up. Now you got glucose and insulin. Now the following thing happened. Insulin takes glucose to the cells to feed them. That's actually happening 24 hours a day. Otherwise, you won't be alive. And then you see this happening. There comes the glucose of whatever you ate that was carbohydrate, whatever, with the insulin, and now it feeds the cell. That's what needs to happen for you to be alive. Now, when there is excess insulin and glucose, the body is forced to convert it into fat. So when you have this situation, you overate the carbohydrates, it created tons of glucose, tons of insulin. The pancreas was forced, he sensed, the pancreas has these little antennas, and it's always sensing how much glucose is in the bloodstream. When the pancreas senses higher glucose, it immediately starts putting out insulin. When there's more glucose and more insulin than the body can handle, it tries to feed it, but that's the only way you can grow fat. There's no way, we're all different, okay? But we all have something in common. We belong to the human race. There is no way to gain weight that is not that. So you have to have this situation to have excess fat. So any fat that you have in your waist that makes your clothing uncomfortable to wear came through that. There's no other way of creating it. That's the physics, that's the biology, that's the physiology of it. So the epidemic of obesity is caused primarily by excess glucose, excess insulin. Okay, your body cannot create fat without insulin. It's impossible. Diabetics that are diabetics type 1, they have to inject insulin because their pancreas does not produce insulin. If a diabetic that's type 1 does not inject insulin, he would die out of hunger because the cells would be hungry. So you cannot create fat or feed the cells without insulin. It's impossible. So knowing that, without the shopping cart, which is the insulin, the body is unable to build fat. It cannot. That's a scientific truth. To lose body fat, all you need to do is reduce the shopping cart, the insulin. So you need to turn that huge amount of insulin into a smaller amount of insulin. And now you start losing fat. While the insulin is very high in your bloodstream, it blocks even the liver from letting go of the fat. So you will have fatty liver. So when the insulin is very high, the body stops disposal of all fat. You cannot lose fat. No matter how much you exercise, you will never lose fat if the insulin is too high. So it's the fattening hormone, insulin. Okay, now, the key is to differentiate between foods that produce lots of insulin and foods that produce very little insulin. And here we go. Foods that produce lots of insulin we call S foods because they are slimming foods. We love to have very highly technical words. Now, foods that produce little insulin, we call them F foods because they are produced, okay. Oh, this is the other way around. I'm sorry. Okay, good. Okay, now foods that produce lots of insulin, we call F foods, and foods that produce little insulin, we call S foods, okay? F for fattening because it produces a lot of insulin, S for slimming, okay. There are typo there. Now, two kinds of foods. You'll see this on the book with no typos. For example, foods that produce small insulin reaction in the body are meats, chicken, turkey, fish, seafood, cheese, eggs, most vegetables, vegetable juices, salads, almond nuts. They're called slimming foods. Foods that produce large insulin reaction, require a lot of insulin, are bread, pasta, flour, rice, potatoes, starches, corn, root vegetables, cereals, sugar, candy, chocolates, milk, fruit juices, sugary soft drinks. Okay? So you have two kinds of foods. In the system that I've developed, it's ultra easy. You either classify it as an S food or an F food. And nothing is prohibited. You can eat anything you want, okay? You just need to be able to understand that you need to eat more of the S foods and less of the F foods. But nothing is out of the game. You can eat anything you want. Now, here we go. Now, the S foods are those foods that produce little insulin, the slimming foods. These are proteins like meats, like beef, like pork, like poultry, like chicken, turkey, fish, seafood, eggs, cheese, nuts, almonds, and natural carbohydrates like vegetables, salad, and vegetable juices. Not the fruit juices. They fall in the other group, okay? Because they're high in fructose. So these are the foods that will actually help you slim down. The type F are those that produce lots of insulin. These are the ones that will fatten you. We're talking now about refined carbohydrates, and here we go with the things we really like bread, pasta, flour, rice, potatoes, starches, cereals, sugar, candies, chocolates, milk, sugary sodas or soft drinks, fruit juice. And of course, the tortillas will fall somewhere there, okay? Okay, in case you have a doubt, okay? Okay. Now, there is an easy to do diet that restores your body's metabolism. It just basically restores it. It's very easy to do. More than a diet, it's a lifestyle, because it's something that you carry through life. I use this one myself as a lifestyle. I never weigh myself. I let my clothing, well, actually we teach people in our weight loss system never to weigh themselves. We ask them to look at their clothing. See, your clothing does not forgive. And it's a constant true reminder of the truth of what's happening. If your clothing is getting tighter, you're gaining weight. If it's getting looser, you're losing the weight. So we ask people to actually look at their clothing and also how much energy they feel, how tired, how much energy they have. Because people who are overweight or obese, they're not just overweight or obese, they're also weak. They are without energy. And sometimes they become a little bit intolerant because they don't have energy. Now, the 2-by-1 diet, we have two diets. We have the 2-by-1 diet and we have another one that's called the 3-by-1. But the 2-by-1 diet, it's an easy to understand nutrition plan that does not require that you count calories, carbohydrates, or fat. People hate counting things, especially when they need to eat. It's like counting things is like well, if you want to balance the checkbook, it's fine. But at the time when you want to eat, which is one of the pleasures of life, you want to enjoy it. So we avoid counting anything. It's more than a diet, it's a lifestyle, as it allows you to slim down, in other words, lose fat, while you enjoy all foods. It's based on the scientific fact that it's only the insulin hormone that allows your body to create new fat. It's a scientific fact. So we want to lower the body's necessity or production of insulin. Okay, now here you have an example. You take a plate, regular size, and you say two-thirds of the plate, that's why it's called a 2-by-1, I'll fill it with anything I want of the S foods, of the slimming foods. Anything I want. It could be cheese, it could be meat, it could be salad, it could be almonds, it could be vegetables, it could be anything, any type of protein that you want to put there, it's fine, 2/3, okay? Or salad, or vegetables, fine, they all fit there, fine. And then 1/3, you leave for your F foods. And so you can have the cake and eat it too, okay? And there it could be mashed potatoes, or it could be a tortilla, or it could be anything you want. As long as you keep that balance, okay? Okay, now here you see you want dessert, okay? So if you want dessert, you leave 1/3 for the dessert. You don't have to mix the dessert with the rice and beans or anything like that, but you kind of mentally leave about that portion for your dessert. So I want a cheesecake, I want a piece of cake, whatever, but you make a proportion of 2-to-1. And there you're doing the 2-by-1 diet. Okay, now you got some examples here. This is like for breakfast, okay? You see the bacon, you see the eggs, you see the potatoes, okay? Now which one is the one that will make you fat? You are brilliant. You're brilliant. Okay, you're brilliant. Okay, you just passed your first exam. Okay, okay, it's promising, promising. Okay, now here we have meat, vegetables, a little bit of pasta. Which one is the one that makes you fat? Brilliant! I tell you, you're high IQ. Definitely high IQ. Okay, okay, good. Okay, now for those that have a lot of fat to lose or are diabetic, we use the 3-by-1 diet, okay? Now this is the one I use only because I'm 65 years old, and as you grow older, your metabolism starts to come down. So your metabolism isn't you're not there yet, it's fine. Okay, 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 good. Okay, so, okay, now, here you see, this is the one that I personally use, and we use it for diabetics. It's also a lifestyle, but you go a little bit more aggressive on cutting down a little bit more on carbs to compensate for either having diabetes or having excess fat to take off, or having an older body that starts to lose metabolism. Here you have like chicken breast, vegetables. You can fill 3/4 of the plate with any type S foods and leave 1/4 with your favorite F food. And then you got 3 by 1. Now you can also go a New York sirloin and a garden salad and a little pasta portion, okay? Or it could be that portion you leave for your dessert or whatever. One thing that's interesting about this type of nutrition plan is that your hunger goes away. What's been discovered is that what makes you hungry is insulin. What makes you hungry is high insulin. So once you cut the production of insulin in the pancreas, you will not feel hungry. And the body will not let you overeat. So you don't have to count calories or anything because the body is made to self-regulate, okay? When I eat like that, I'm not hungry. In fact, sometimes I have to force myself to eat. Now, when you start using this, if you are overweight, the first thing you will notice is that your hunger is gone. And that's happening because the body is actually eating. It's eating what it should have ate before. It's all your fat. The body will start pulling your own fat, which is why your clothing will keep being looser and looser. The body is, and you won't feel hungry because the body is eating. And if it's eating, he won't ask for food because it's eating your own fat, which is he was supposed to eat that before. So now he's doing it. But you create like a hormonal balance when you eat this way because you're not producing insulin, which is the fattening, not just fattening, but it's the hormone that won't let you lose the fat. Because those two things, it fattens and it causes the fat leaving the body. Okay, now a vital datum that you must know to improve your body's metabolism, and this is a discovery that was made only 5 years ago, but it's very vital, is that your body's central nervous system controls everything in your metabolism. So the body has a central nervous system. It's called autonomic central nervous system. It's called autonomic because it functions in automatic, okay? And we all have it. Otherwise, we will not be alive. Now, the body central nervous system is run from the cerebellum, from here. It's a computer. It's an actual computer that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that has a lot of cables, a lot of electrical cables that are called the nerves. The nerves is a huge amount of electrical cable. And the nerves actually contact every single organ and every single area of your body. When you hit something on your toe, it communicates back and it tells, oh, I hit my toe. It hurts, see? So, but everything in your body is all connected, and it's all connected to the central nervous system over in the brain. Now, that central nervous system is monitoring your heart rate, your digestion, your immune system, everything. So if you ate something some 4 hours ago, you wouldn't have to be worried about it. The body's doing it. It checks on everything. It's always monitoring everything that happens in your body. It's being managed, the whole hormonal system, the whole digestive system, the whole immune system. It's all being handled automatically by the central nervous system. Now that central nervous system is divided in 2 parts. It has 2 parts, and we all have 2 parts. There's one part that we call the excited nervous system. Doctors will call it the sympathetic nervous system. I shun away from medical terms, so I rename it the excited nervous system. I didn't want to bring any medical terms like sympathetic or none of that. So I call it the excited nervous system. That would be comparable to a gas pedal. This is the part of the nervous system that activates when you need to run, fight, flee, or act rapidly. So when you're in an emergency, you activate the nervous system, the excited nervous system. Now, all of us also have what we call the passive nervous system, which is equivalent to a brake pedal. This actually slows down motions, and that speeds up motion. We all have it, okay? Now, what has been discovered in the metabolism technology is that all of us are different. And some of us have more of an activity on the body, on the passive, and some have more of activity on the excited. And then I'm going to do certain things here so each one of you knows exactly how's your system running. It's more excited, it's more passive, and that way you can actually help your metabolism by giving it the right foods because both systems use different type of fuels. Okay, here we go. Now, definition of sanity. A definition of the word sanity, which is exactly the contrary of being psychotic, okay? This definition is the ability to differentiate. This definition is from L. Ron Hubbard. I love it. It's simple, it's straight. Sanity is the ability to differentiate. For example, if I can differentiate between being faithful and unfaithful to my wife, I am sane. If I can differentiate between what's your personal property and what's mine, I'm sane. So what is sanity? Sanity is an ability to differentiate. Now, 40 years ago, it was said that all cholesterol was bad. So having high cholesterol was like having the devil inside of your body. Then somebody became sane. Somebody differentiated and they discover, and they say, oh no, wait, there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. So they became sane. So you see every day when you can differentiate, you become sane. So in the subject of metabolism, we want to be able to differentiate. We want to be sane. So an important difference to be aware of, differentiation, is that we're all not the same. See, we all have different genetic factors that come from our fathers, forefathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, whatever, but we're all different. And we all have different mixtures. Some have more Aztec, some have more African American, some have more European, some have more whatever. Especially in America, where we're all a blend of different races, hardly anybody can claim that they have like some kind of pure breed, like pure breed dogs or something. You know? So a little bit mixed. Now, those genetic factors play a role, okay? And they basically indicate what type of predominance you would have, whether passive or excited. It's kind of like I have 4 children, and 2 of my children are passives and 2 are excited. They come from the same mother, but they're different. Now, the diet cannot be the same for all. It cannot be the same for all. So one of the main errors of nutrition is that they want to place everybody on a low-fat diet, everybody on calories. They want to have everybody do the same thing, which is why they have it out of control, because they cannot differentiate. So they're a little bit psycho. Food selection should be based on your body's type of dominant nervous system. This is actually explained in our book. At the end, you will go more into detail on it, okay? This is a major discovery, and it's made us very successful because we can handle cases that have failed everywhere else. One part of the nervous system slows down the body's movement. We call it the passive. The other part of the nervous system speeds up the body's movement. We call it the excited, okay? And we all have both. When you need to sleep, you need to have the passive active when you need to sleep. So if you're excited, is too active, you won't be able to sleep. You'll be staring at the walls, okay? So it has a lot of uses, being able to differentiate, okay? Now, movement that is too slow will cause problems. Example, excessive sleepiness, bad circulation, constipation, they're all slow movements. That will cause problems. But now look at the opposite. Movement that is too fast will cause problems. And there you go with nervous agitation, sleep difficulties, accelerated pulse, and diarrhea. So these 2 extremes cause problems. Now, the truth behind this is that life and good health depend totally on good balance. So what we're trying to do from the technology developed for the metabolism is we're trying to balance the body. Not too fast, not too slow. Not too hot, not too cold. Not too acid, not too alkaline. We want to balance it. And when we arrive at that balance, the person has total health. Now, does your body have a passive or an excited nervous system? Now, we'll find out for all you guys, okay? The way to find out is this. The rule is, in order to find out if your body has any of the excited characteristics, even if just one, and even when it is only once in a while, you should treat it as an excited nervous system. So I'm going to call out 5 characteristics. If one of them applies to you, you have an excited nervous system. Now, I am meaning your body. I'm not meaning you. See, you are a spiritual being. This is a characteristic of your body. Now, you are you, and your body is your body. Now we're trying to determine what type of a dominant nervous system is in your body, whether excited or passive. I'm going to call 5 out, and there's going to be some of you that are going to have just one. You're excited. You have an excited nervous system in your body. Some of them are going to call 2. Some are going to call 3. Some are going to find 4, and some will find 5. Okay? If you find none of them, you have a passive nervous system. Okay? For example, Frank Suarez, I have a passive nervous system. I don't have any of these 5 characteristics. My wife, Elizabeth, has 5 of 5. Okay? And we find, very interesting, this is just an interesting comment, we find that very many couples are composed of a passive and an excited, much like yin and yang. Okay? It's like they're opposite and they attract. Okay? But that's a subject for another study. I haven't studied that yet. Okay. Now, the characteristics of an excited nervous system are these. And be aware to see if you have any one of these, because you have an excited nervous system. First one, okay. You have trouble digesting red meat. Now, raise your hand if you ever have had trouble digesting red meat. Raise your hands. Excited, okay? You're excited. No discussion on it. You're excited. Your body is excited, okay? Good. Consuming saturated fat or fatty foods can cause indigestion. Raise your hands if you have that. Excited. Good. Okay, here we go. More. If I eat late at night, it can upset my digestion. Who has that? Excited. It's an excited system, okay? Remember, we're talking about your body, not about you. Next. If I eat after a certain hour at night, I may have trouble falling asleep. This is different. Raise your hands. Excited. Okay. Last one, okay, of the 5. I have a light sleep and external noises can awaken me easily. Raise your hands. Excited, okay? Excited system. Okay, good. Okay, now, let's see which ones of you found one characteristic of excited. Raise your hands. That's kind of like one characteristic, only one. Okay, good. Thank you. Which ones of you found 2 characteristics of excited? Okay, good. It's more excitation. Which ones of you found 3? Any? Okay, good. Anyone found 4? Okay, we have some. Did anyone find 5? Okay, there's my wife raising her hand there. Okay, good. Now, the best way to understand something is to compare it to something that's the opposite. Now, raise your hand, those of you that didn't find any of these 5 characteristics. Raise your hands. You're passives. Passive nervous system, like me. Okay, good. Now, here we go. Let's look at the opposite, okay? Okay, characteristic of the passive nervous system. That I fall there. And these are it. You digest red meat very well, always. Consuming saturated fat or fatty foods never bothers you, ever. You can digest any food well, even if you eat very late at night. I've eaten a huge amount of pork at 2 a.m. in the morning and slept like a baby, okay? My body digests even when it's sleeping, okay? My wife, she eats something a little bit late, and she doesn't sleep, and she doesn't let me sleep either, okay? It has a double effect, okay, good. You never have trouble going to sleep even if you eat late at night. That's part of the passive. And You enjoy a deep sleep and noises do not wake you up easily. I've always told my wife that the worst person to be in charge of security at night is me. Because once I go to sleep, nothing that happens will wake me up, okay? We were in Los Angeles back in 2003. You know, Los Angeles has earthquakes, okay? And one morning she wakes me up and she says, didn't you notice the earthquake last night? And you know, the
glasses.
The frames and everything were all, you know, crooked, okay? I say, what? Well, last night, the earthquake. And then she was kind of furious. And then she says, you know what you told me when I tried to wake you up? No, what did I tell you? I don't know. I was asleep. I says, I shook you up and told you, there's an earthquake. You know what you told me? No, what did I tell you? Leave it for tomorrow. Okay. Okay. So that's how a passive sleeps, okay? Deep sleep. Okay, anyway. So, knows whether passive or excited system. I hope nobody dares to say that I have half and half or something like that, because you have a major misunderstood, and you need help with a psychiatrist or something like that. But here either you fall on one side or the other, and there's no exceptions. Okay, here we go. Okay, now, by the way, in the book, I go through the recommendations for food, but I want to give you some, so as not to leave you with a hole, on the type of food that should be consumed by both types, okay? For example, system does extremely well with red meat. Well, there are some biochemical reasons for that. We don't need to go into that. I do not do well at all if I don't have red meat. I need to have red meat. Actually, if my wife tries to put me on like a chicken breast or a white fish for too long, I grow weak. And then I lose interest in sex, and she doesn't like that either. Okay. So she already knows. By the way, my wife is a certified metabolism consultant, so she knows what she's doing. And now she's very excited. 5 of 5. Now, when people have an excited system, it's a body that wants movement. Like this lady here who can't stop moving her knees. I know she's excited. I didn't have to ask, because the excited nervous system wants action. It's a body that's mostly in pain. It's a body that's always stressed. It has a lot of stress over here in the shoulders. They have back problems. They have they have cramps. It's a body that is actually very stressed. Now, their senses, it's a hunter's body, because their senses are very strong. They smell more, they see more, and they hear more, okay? Their senses are like overblown, okay? It's a type of body that generally what it wants, it's sweets. They love sweets, okay? And very many of them are bodies that just crave coffee. Starbucks lives off of excited, okay? Okay. So my wife, when I want to see my wife happy, I bring her coffee, and she's all smiles, okay? But it's a type of body. Now, knowing this actually helps, because when you start feeding the body correctly, for example, the diet for somebody like my wife, which is an excited system, would be white meats, lots of vegetables, lots of salad, no red meat, almost no salt, and fat makes them fat. It's actually a body that absorbs fat. Now, my body, if I want it to lose weight, I have to give it fat. And the more fat I give it, the more weight it loses. It's the opposite of what you've been told out there. So I need red meat, salt. The passive body has a tendency to low blood pressure. The excited have high blood pressure, okay? It's a body that retains salt. So when you want to lose weight and have an excited system, you have to increase potassium, increase magnesium, and lower salt, because the body retains salt. But the passive system does not retain salt. We actually need salt because we tend to have a tendency toward low blood pressure. But anyway, knowing this actually helps you steer your body and supply to your body the right fuel source, and then you will feel the energy come back, and everything in the hormonal system starts to balance out. The body, what I have found all these years, I've been doing this 17 years, is that the body has no defects. What has defects is the owner. It's a lack of knowledge. It's like anybody who tries to drive a car and doesn't know how to drive will eventually wreck the car. And that's really what happens with body. But the body has no defects. It's a marvelous design. It always works, and anything that's happening with it has to do with who's driving it, and that's all. Anyway, knowledge is power. Knowledge is definitely power. There is help available. We have a group of certified metabolism consultants. We have them for the States. They handle in both languages, Spanish, English. We have them in Florida. Actually, our executive director for it's called the Relax Slim System in the United States. It's Gabriela Suarez. She actually lives in Harlingen, and she's back there, and she actually directs all of our operations for the United States, and we have consultants. They're called certified metabolism consultants, people who actually do interviews, and they check on you, and they see exactly what you need, and they see if you have constipation, if you have high blood pressure, whatever, and they're able to direct you in a way so that you get rid of all these problems, but basically by recovering your body's ability to produce energy. So, and we recommend very highly that you get the book and read it to educate yourselves. The more you know, the better you will do. So anyway, I just want to thank you. There's a phone that you can call for information, for free information. And thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you for being so wonderful.